Just a quick disclaimer before I start this video. This video is in no way attacking or hating on the high round community in Call of Duty Zombies because I applaud you guys. I really do, because you guys have the patience to sit there and play zombies for an insane amount of hours to get to high rounds, to try to get world records and such. Y'all are crazy. This is just my personal opinion, how I feel about zombies, and the fact that I think high rounds is the most boring thing in existence in zombies, and why I never barely even try to go for them. And also I'll give some suggestions of how they can make high rounds better for future zombies maps to kind of just make it more replayable for players like me who just don't have the patience to sit there doing the same repetitive thing for hours upon hours upon hours. So I've been playing Call of Duty Zombies since the first ever map came out back in 2008 with World at War. That of course was Noctur on Toten. At that time, back when I played zombies a lot with my friends in our basements and such, we used to think like round 10 was absolutely amazing. We had a lot of fun trying to beat our records because our records were so low, and obviously they didn't take that much time to get to because they were pretty low rounds. So then as time went on, obviously we started getting a little bit higher and a little bit higher, and then obviously the rounds started getting longer and longer as we've noticed. And I used to think it was crazy to look on YouTube and see people in the hundreds and even some people getting to the thousands and like Shino Numa and such, and I was like, how is this even possible? Then Black Ops 1 came out with Keener Toten, and it was kind of the same deal, except I noticed I can get a little bit further, obviously because of stuff like the Thunder Gun, and I think the 30s was like the commonplace, and if you were getting like anything past like 35, I thought you were a really damn good player. And of course, time goes on again, and now we're at a point where I don't really consider any round to be that impressive on any zombies map, ever, really. All I do when I look at it is I'm like, okay, that guy had a lot of patience. He clearly was lucky because his game didn't crash, and he just has a lot of knowledge of how things work on these maps, because obviously high rounds require some knowledge in terms of, the power-up cycle, how the map works itself, what type of weapons are the most effective of killing zombies on high rounds, what type of traps are the most effective. What I do find to be very impressive are the speedrunners who speedrun like round 100s in like a certain amount of time. Those are really impressive. Even then, it takes a lot of patience. I feel like that's the biggest part of it, is just simply patience, and that's something I simply don't have because there's not a lot of time on this earth. I don't want to spend it doing the same repetitive thing in zombies over and over and over again. I've gotten to a certain point in zombies where I find the most enjoyment of maps either to be the Easter eggs or to simply be playing till like round 20 or 25 and then just ending the game. That's one of the things I love about Cold War is the exfil. At least I can do something. I can exit the game in a way that's not just letting the zombies kill me. It's instead at least like winning the game in some way. But even on previous games like BO3, BO4, I would usually just try to beat the Easter egg at least so I can, say I completed the map rather than just being like, oh, I died on round 34. And it's like, oh, okay. Most zombies maps don't really have a lot of content on them to just continuously play around with, other than maps like Spaceland, of course. But you get to a certain point in maps where you've done most of what there is to do on the map. You've done all the side quests. You've done everything that you feel like you can get out of a map. And then it's just simply running around in circles, killing zombies until you die. I don't find that to be fun. Whether it's camping or training or even running on the map, it's all really repetitive once you get past a certain round. And usually past like round 40, most guns are worthless and you have to rely on wonder weapons or traps. And if the maps don't have the best wonder weapon in the world, well, boom, you're stuck using traps. What if there's no traps? Then what the hell do? You get to a certain point where you're just relying on power-ups at that point. I do not enjoy that. I do not find that to be fun. I find it to be tedious and annoying, especially because if you want to get to any significant number, because most people don't really consider anything below like round 100 to be that amazing anyways, depending on the map, of course. But most maps, it's like, oh, if you get to round 100, that's an accomplishment. Below that, whatever. But even getting to round 100 takes like 8+ hours on most maps, and most people do not have the time to sit there for 8 hours playing the same exact map. Of course, pausing exists. Most players don't want to pause their game, leave, and just leave it on pause forever. What if they want to go play a different map? What if they want to play a different game? What if they want to do something else with their Xbox? They don't want to leave it on pause forever. What if their power goes out? What if this happens? What if that happens? There's a lot of issues that can happen, and there's not a lot of players who have the patience to sit there for 8 hours at a time trying to get to the highest round possible when it doesn't really rely much on skill, it relies more on patience. So instead of just complaining, what are my solutions? So I have a few solutions. I think one of the biggest ones that I've been mentioning for years now is they should implement a system where you can save the game and return to it later. Obviously this wouldn't work in public matches. Everyone always says that. Like I bring up this idea, they're like, what about public matches? Well, Einstein, just don't use this feature for public matches. That I don't know, like it's not that hard. It would be mainly only a solo player thing, and you just save the game, and you can like save it in the file specifically, and you can go back to that file later. Now the only issue with this is, what if the game updates? Would it like disable that file or something? I don't know. I have no idea. I guess maybe it could update the map itself. I'm sure there's a way it could do that while you're already in it. I have no idea. But you just go back and you just hop back in that game. Maybe it expires after a certain amount of time. I have no idea. But this would essentially allow players to just pause the game, go back to it later, and not have to worry about sitting there for the longest time trying to get high rounds. Imagine if this was a thing, if you were in like, let's say the 60s or 70s in terms of the rounds, you can maybe play one round one day like you do, oh, today I'm going to do round 71 and try to beat round 71, maybe 72, because I only have about 30 something minutes to do it, and I know those 2 rounds are probably going to take me about 30 minutes total, so I'll just try to do 2 rounds within the next 30 minutes, get them done, and then I'll move on. Tomorrow I'll do a couple rounds. Maybe the next day I have some more time so I can do like 5 or 6 rounds. And you can just do this with a weekly basis. Like you can do this for a while. You can have this go on for weeks even. And I won't have to worry about keeping my Xbox on to just do this high round thing. You know what I mean? Like it's so much easier if they had a system like this. But with how it is now, it requires you to continuously pause your game and just keep it open. And a lot of players do not want to do that. Another solution I have is probably one the high round community would not like, because this would be a big change for high rounds. I think if they made it so the rounds were not nearly as long, kind of like World at War, but they upped the difficulty like crazy. Not in terms of the zombie health. I don't like when the zombie health keeps going up and up. They have done pretty good with this. I believe Black Ops 4 and Cold War have had health caps. I'm not too sure exactly where those health caps are, but they're at a certain round where the zombies don't have more health after that, so they kind of stay put like that. And there's definitely a lot of ways to kill zombies in high rounds, especially in Cold War. Like Dead Wire on round 70 can destroy a whole herd of walkers. Or I watch The Walking Dead too much. I keep saying walkers. You know what I mean? A whole herd of zombies. You can kill a bunch, right? Now, that's good. I think that's a good change for sure. That's something that I definitely prefer over Black Ops 1, where you can only really use traps and sometimes the one weapons depending on the map. If it's an infinite damage one weapon, but if it's not, then it's probably not going to work for you. Like Call of the Dead, you can't even get to round 100 because the one weapons suck and there's no traps on the map. So that's kind of rough. Instead, I think zombies should just get a lot more aggressive as the rounds go on, and also the boss zombies should get more aggressive, not necessarily so like they can one-hit you very easily, but and also not the speed, because no one likes super sprinters. It's not really fun having zombies that can sprint faster than you, but sprinting to a certain extent where it's not easy to get away from them, and I guess swiping a little bit faster as well. You should up that a little bit, not too fast. You don't want it to be so jarring that out of nowhere they just start getting crazy. You kind of want it to be a slow build up to zombies that are incredibly hard to go against. That would make, high rounds not as easy. And there's just a lot of ways to exploit a lot of these maps, which I feel like is what makes it so much easier for players. It's like if you know the strategy, you're probably going to be fine. I feel like most maps only have like 1 or 2 strategies, which I think is one of my biggest issues with it, because it's like there's not really a lot of variety in what you can do for high rounds. I mean, you watch high round players, 9 times out of 10, they're doing the same couple of strats per map. There's some maps that have literally one strat that works, and there's like nothing else that works. And I know this because I've taken a look at a few different strats online, a couple different world record holders and such. They usually do the same couple of strategies, which to me is not as exciting as if there was a bunch of different strategies. Of course, you can do whatever you want, really, but there's only a few that's really going to be good and fast for getting to high rounds quickly, because let's be real here, nobody wants to sit there all day doing high rounds. I don't think a lot of people are down for that. I do think the most recent Call of Duties have definitely helped out with this, making it a little bit more bearable because of leveling up and Dark Ether and such. People have more of a reason to stay in the games longer because they want to level up their guns, they want to level up their battle pass. I do appreciate that. Doesn't change the fact that I don't want to be doing the same thing in a zombies map for hours upon hours. That's why high rounds to me, not that enjoyable. I think if it was a little bit shorter and maybe just a little bit easier to get to those rounds in terms of time, not in terms of actual challenge, I would appreciate it a lot. I don't want it to be easy, of course. And also just have some maps here and there where getting even past round like 40 is not easy. You know, that would be a really cool thing. And there's maps like that. Gruston House, for example, in World War II, that map's not very simple to get to a decently high round in. So getting around 50 in that map is actually a really big achievement, which is one of the reasons I really do enjoy that survival map. But like most World at War maps, obviously people know how to do World at War now, so it's pretty easy to get to decently high rounds if you know the strats, especially on Shinonuma. Like, holy shit, you can get to some crazy high rounds in there. Obviously, BO3, BO4, Infinite Warfare, all these gobblegums and such have just made it so much easier to getting to high rounds, and even in Cold War, there's just so many things like the Ring of Fire, the one weapons are pretty crazy. It definitely makes it a lot easier. I think my last solution just comes down to just wanting more content on the maps themselves, more things to do within the map that don't involve side quests or the main quest, because side quests as well as the main Easter egg, those are all one-time things. You do it once, you never have to do it again in the entire game. And those type of things, although I love having a lot of them, they're not going to keep the content flowing for long term in one singular match. You have to actually die and go into another match in order for you to redo those things. So what kind of things am I talking about? I think the best example of this would be Zombies in Spaceland. Zombies in Spaceland is one of the only maps that I've actually had fun going to like round 50 on. Yes, round 50. I don't like going, like I said, I don't like going past that if it's, you know, unless it's World at War where it's very easy to get past that. But like, you know, Infinite Warfare, it literally took us like 4 hours or 5 hours even to just get to round 50. So I don't think I'd want to get to round 100 in that game. It just would not be very fun for me to play for that long in one single game. But going around 50 in Infinite Warfare, at least on Spaceland, was a ton of fun because Spaceland has so many little things to do, so many little things to mess with. You have a bunch of different cool traps, you have the arcade machines, a bunch of different tickets you can earn and buy a bunch of different things for, a bunch of different pieces of equipment. You have a bunch of arcane cores with a bunch of different abilities. You can put a bunch of different guns with a bunch of different wonder weapons, a bunch of everything. There's the different coins you can get to craft a bunch of these little traps that you can use, like the firework trap or the lawnmower thingy or the electric trap. All these cool little things you can build and craft and just use like a maniac on Spaceland. One of the reasons why I find that map to be so incredibly fun, even for long term. And of course, you have constant music playing, which definitely adds to the enjoyment there. So maps just need more of that. We just need more things to do, not forcefully. I don't think it's a good idea to make things on a map where it forces you to do it, kind of like Origins, how the Templar zombies come every now and then, that forces you to go out of your way to do something. Don't force the player, give them options, let them just camp in a corner for the rest of the game if they so please, but also give us some shit to mess with. Give us some stuff that can take us for the entire game and will actually reward us with stuff, whether it be max ammos or new wonder weapons or more points or perks or something. And that's one of the reasons I do find a lot of fun in Origins, is because getting all the perks on that map is not something you can do very quickly. It takes a lot of time, so you're kind of going throughout the entire game trying to get these extra perk bottles in order to get all perks in the game. One of the reasons I find the Rainbow Perk Challenge to be incredibly fun on Origins. And then you go to a map like Call of the Dead, getting all the perks in that map forces you to kill George over and over again, so that takes a decent amount of time as well. That's not something you're going to do really quickly. That gives you something to do throughout the game. Maps like Dreisendrock, maps that have 4 wonder weapons, especially if you're playing solo, you spend your time going for all 4 of the wonder weapons. Obviously, once you do it, there's nothing else after that, which is unfortunate, but there's still a lot of things to do on the map. So even into high rounds, if I'm still trying to get these wonder weapons, it's still something to do, and that's what maps need to be, and why I'm not really a big fan of those really simplistic maps, like most of the Cold War maps, where there's just not much to do other than 1 or 2 side quests and the main Easter egg quest. You know what I mean? So that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.